Starting. Hey, it's episode 31 of the ToonamiGAF podcast. How are you guys?
Woohoo!
Doing good.
It's awesome.
So,
What?
He asked you a question.
Here we go. It's gonna be one of those episodes.
we started the episode, by the way.
Oh, I am great.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those episodes.
Okay.
As long as he doesn't die partway through.
Yeah.
We'll be okay.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those episodes where the host dies.
Yeah, those are pretty common.
I mean, we get those from time to time.
So, what news was there this week? I forget.
I don't think there was anything.
They're doing a showing of Spirited Away, but that's about it.
Yes, I already got my tickets for that.
I'm getting mine in the next couple of days as soon as I figure out if I'm free that day.
Like, I was immediately like, oh shit, Sunday? Fuck yeah, let's do it.
Wait, what? It's this Sunday?
No, it's Sunday, December 4th.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because I was like, wait, what? I was deeply confused for a second. I'm like, oh, god damn, I can go.
But no, I'm like, I'm free on Sundays.
I don't think any of us do anything on Sundays. Usually it's just sleep.
Football.
Eh.
Man, I can't believe we're halfway through football already.
Well, I mean,
I'm probably the only one. It looks like I'm the only one here who watches it. So
No,
whatever.
I watch
mean,
football. But
yeah.
I'm a Bears fan, and they've sucked for a while. So
I mean, I'm a Giants fan, and the only chance we really have to get to the playoffs is the wild card, if only because
the
freaking
Cowboys are going.
yeah, the freaking Cowboys. They get rid of Tony Romo, and the team comes good. He needs to come back and screw up the whole team again. It's not fair. They're supposed to be shit.
Well, I mean, the rest of the NFC.
It's garbage.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're a Giants fan, and they'll probably get a wild
Yeah.
card spot.
Yeah, I mean, the rest of everything is garbage, so, you know.
But you got Minnesota and Green Bay just kind of falling over each other in the NFC North. And nobody's really looking great in the NFC South. Or
It would be hilarious if that division had just ended up with like suddenly the Detroit Lions are division champions.
That wouldn't shock me in the slightest.
The Steelers, unfortunately, suck. Literally, since Trump waved a terrible towel, we've lost every game.
It's a protest on the part of the players. Also, Tom Brady needs to lose this season.
Oh, boy.
We need Eli more than ever.
We need them to lose in the AFC Championship to the Oakland Raiders in a tough game revenge story.
No. The Super Bowl is going to be Giants-Patriots, Part 3, Eli getting his third ring. Book it.
Sure, okay.
It's not going to happen, but it would be hilarious.
It could happen.
It could. I mean, never count the Giants out once they make the playoffs. I think the last 2 times we made it, we won.
This has been your ToonamiGAF podcast, Football Minute. Now,
God.
back on topic, Dragon Ball Z Kai. Dragon Ball Z Kai, episode 93, Unleash the Warrior Within, Gohan takes the offensive. Well, he finally got mad.
I almost forgot we had that pause there for a minute. I was going to say something.
See, it's not always me.
I caught myself, though.
Damn it.
Yeah. No, yeah, finally Gohan got mad, and the fight finally gets started. And
No, it doesn't really get started. He beats up some little cells. The entire episode.
He beats something up, you know? I mean, damn.
I mean, finally.
Are those things called Cell Junior, or is that just what people in the thread call them?
Well,
who knows?
I don't know like what they're called in like Japanese or whatever, but I know at least in the Kai dub, the broadcaster guy is like they're Cell Juniors, and that's like what he called them. And then like in the various video games, they're also called Cell Juniors. So
I don't think they have a name outside of that. Like, I think Cell just pooped him out, and he's like, "Oh, these things are no better than turds."
But
It's
they'll
weird
still
that they-
kick your ass. My turds can
Yeah.
kick your ass.
It's weird that they don't talk. They just sort of go like, eh.
They're basically Cybermen.
Yeah.
Only this time everyone is, freaking Yamcha. Actually, that does fit everyone as Yamcha this arc except for Gohan. Well, also except for Yamcha. He's actually Tien. And Tien's Vegeta. No, this isn't working at all.
Nope.
No,
I
this
like how the reporter guy, he is so dedicated to his job. He's just literally hanging upside down from a tree, and he's still doing his voice.
he's trying. Like, you got to respect that, like, everything's coming to an end around him. Everything he knows has just been flipped upside down. There's aliens and superpowered people, and there's flying and laser beams and shit, and he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna stick with this. I'm gonna stick with this so you all know. But then he loses the microphone and the camera's broken, and ain't nobody gonna believe him.
Well, I have a question then. So I never watched Dragon Ball. So does this world understand that there are aliens, or is this like a new thing?
No, they don't. They don't really. I mean, outside of like the core group, it's sort of like nobody's really getting out there with, oh, there's aliens.
I think when Dragon Ball was new, like Piccolo was a demon.
Yeah,
Like he wasn't an alien, and that was kind of really a retcon. Like, oh, they're actually aliens.
Oh,
yeah.
It's kind of the same thing with like I doubt that Goku being a kid with a tail was originally meant to be an alien. They just kind
Right.
of that was supposed to be like the big, reveal at the beginning of Dragon Ball Z is like he's actually an alien. That probably blew minds back in the day. I don't know.
Like
Yeah,
like the end of the first chapter twist.
Yeah, something like that.
As far as I understand, Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball as a manga are one and the same. The anime separates them, but as a manga, it's just a continuous thing. Only the super manga is different, which, from what I understand, is actually written after the show.
Yeah.
But the Dragon Ball Z is all just one manga from
Right.
the beginning.
It's just after a certain point, Toriyama was like, okay, I need to reboot this a little bit if we're going to keep going.
Kind of like Naruto and Naruto Shippuden, two different anime, but as a manga, it's
same
just
thing.
So
yeah, I remember seeing Dragon Ball in like the manga for sale and never seeing Z and thinking, well, okay, it must all just be one.
Yeah.
But even Naruto, the part 1 volumes have white spines, and the part 2 volumes have black spines.
Well, I mean,
So it's like here's where they separate.
It apart. Yeah, so like you can tell it apart and stuff. Because I mean, also like a lot of anime like to sort of stop and then restart at a time skip. Like we saw it at Dragon Ball, and in Dragon Ball Z we saw it in Naruto. I mean, we'll probably see it in Bleach or something. No, we actually didn't see it we didn't see it in no, that's spoilers. I can't talk about that. But yeah, it does seem to be something that does happen from time to time if it's long running enough.
So was there much else that happened this episode? Because I just remember him getting powered up, and that was about it.
he basically just beat up a bunch of Cell Juniors. So.
And by beat them up, he means like decapitate them.
Oh yeah.
Like every time he hit one, they would literally just split in two, and it's like
We also saw the crucial character moment with Chi-Chi, like being upset that Gohan wouldn't get into college because he wouldn't have good grades.
She's thinking about his future. It's like Goku's like, you could just fight, whatever. She's like, no, he needs a job. He will not be poor like we are.
I get that it's a joke, but it just really strains credibility when he's like, if he doesn't save the world, he's not going to have a job anyway, lady.
No, yeah, but I mean, at the same time, it's like at least somebody in this series has part of their priorities in order.
It kind of seems like it's supposed to be kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear that it's intentionally supposed to be like her priorities are kind of off right now. Like you can't save the world, you have to go to college type of thing. Like it's still a little bit annoying, and especially because they kind of have ragged on this as their character trait for a while.
Yeah,
but I think it is intentionally supposed to be a little bit annoying. I think like
Well, from what I understand, Chi-Chi used to be a fighter herself. You'd think she'd have some knowledge.
She does. It's just a matter of.
Well, she's like, hey, I was a fighter, but this is some different shit.
Yeah, like she don't want to, and no part of that.
I think her motherly instincts just kick in, and that's her character now.
She's like, if he wants to take part in some regular ass, world martial arts tournament, that's fine, but
whatever.
This shit, no.
Where you might die, nah. She ain't want none of that.
You know what we forgot to talk about?
What?
Intruder 3.
Oh, we did.
Oh, well, let's save that for the end then.
Okay.
Whatever.
Anyway, not much happened in this Dragon Ball Z Kai episode. So let's move on to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yes.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Episode 4, Overdrive. Oh my god, he punched the fuck out of that frog!
That frog didn't actually get punched all that hard. He punched the fuck out of the rock under the frog.
Well, that's the joke, basically.
It's still a ridiculous image with a frog just like,
yeah. Yeah.
Even though this anime clearly doesn't have the highest budget, I do think it does a pretty good job with its stylistic choices.
Yeah.
Both with colors, with the Japanese letters that show up on the screen, which, from what I understand, what do they say? They say like intimidating or something.
It's literally just onomatopoeia.
Yeah.
And then with the frog being distorted, it seems like something the frog when he got punched, it distorted for a bit. It seems like maybe something you could even do in Photoshop, draw a picture of a frog and then stretch it. It seemed like it wasn't animated. It was more like this effect that it was going through. But I think the in general, the one thing this anime kind of does well enough is make up for a slightly lower animation budget with some of its stylistic choices.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I think that this show doesn't look as good as I thought it was going to look, just based on what I'd seen from the openings. But I agree that it doesn't matter to me because I think it's good enough, and
it's got style.
Yes, it's a style thing, and it's also the fact that the show itself is just entertaining enough that I don't really care. Yeah. It's kind of like Kill la Kill, where Kill la Kill's animation was all over the place, but I was just so into it, I didn't really care if it was super awesome or just kind of goofy at times. And that frog scene's a great example of that, where it's clearly kind of a cheap animation trick they did there, but it's so funny and weird that I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, Kill la Kill Episode 4 was the best episode, and that has the least animation.
Yeah, well, that's his style, though. That was What's-His-Face's style. But it's right. It's the most Looney Tunes looking thing, and it's awesome.
So in this episode, we're introduced to Hamon, which is also Ripple.
Ripple. Yes.
And I remember when I was watching subtitled, it wasn't official, but they called it Ripple all the time. So when I first heard Hamon, I'm like, wait, what? I guess Ripple. Hamon is what it is the same thing. It's just Ripple.
Yeah.
It's Japanese.
It's like when you've been reading the fan translation for a while, then you get the Viz translation. It's like, wait.
What? No.
Wait.
No. Don't do that.
Well, the show is... Oh, I'm sorry, B-Dubs. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. It's fine.
I was saying we're introduced to this new character, Zeppeli, who is supposed to be Italian. I like his voice, even if it doesn't quite sound Italian, but...
It's Italian enough.
Yeah. Once again, it's his accent is a little bit over the top, but I think it just fits. It's not just me. It's not just being conceding to it. I think being the over the top accent probably even works in its favor a little bit.
It helps because of how over the top the show itself is, so they can get away with those sort of caricature style accents.
Right.
It's it gets so crazy. You're that's the least of your worries. You're so busy. He just punched the frog and he dislocated his arm to punch really hard. Now he's got to carry around the wine glass. And
he's got some great quotes too. One of them that was actually used in the original promo was I don't remember the exact quote, but it was don't let it have whole dominion over you.
Well, another one he says is, rejoice, mankind, for this day I may have found your champion.
Yeah.
It's just cheesy and awesome.
Yeah, I wrote down that this Zeppeli guy, he is super classy, over the top classy, where with his whole wine glass thing, and
Don't you fucking dare spill a drop of that fucking wine.
Here's the line. Here's the one line. Courage is to look your fear in the eye and to know it holds no dominion over you.
yes.
Just stuff like that. And then, of course, I even renamed the gaff thread Bacchanalia of Blood, which is a reference to a Roman or Greek murder or whatever. So just stuff like that.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, the show is definitely in the last episode, in just like the span of like an episode, has gone to the full bizarre names,
and it only gets crazier from here.
Yeah,
a Bacchanalia is actually a drunken revelry, sort of like the Roman festival of Bacchus. And now that I've dropped knowledge. But it's like one of those shows that like it only gets crazier from here because part one is sort of restrained in that.
Well,
I've seen part two, and I would agree that part two part two kind of has a slightly different tone, but it does get also pretty wacky. So
and then part three is even wackier still.
Well, I just meant that like up until now it didn't seem bizarre. It just felt like, this is kind of like a Dracula Castlevania type thing.
Yeah. I mean, that
really bizarre.
Yeah.
There's a part either in the next episode or the episode coming up where it almost is weirded out that it almost broke my suspension of disbelief. It's the part with the leaves, if you guys know what I mean. It's just like that was the part where I was really watching it. I was just like, what the heck?
Well, I mean, if you want to talk about suspension of disbelief,
as opposed to the other thing that happens next episode, Seda.
I'm trying to remember the exact order these things go in, but I just remember, even with this show being as weird and outlandish as it is, that was the one thing. It's like, wait, I guess we're doing this.
That's where we're going now.
It's like, okay, sure, fuck it.
Yeah, who cares?
Let's go.
Now anything is fair game. So.
Yeah,
I just don't. You talk about suspension of disbelief, like I've given that up already because of just the way they talk.
Yeah. I mean, you had to give us suspension of disbelief in like episode 1 when the dog got burned alive.
I meant more with just like world rules and things. And I mean, like even with how silly things are, like it gets even sillier. That's kind of my point. Is it just
okay?
Yeah,
good.
It's constantly escalating its silliness.
That's exactly what I want to happen.
Kind of like in One Piece, where like Frankie having like this super rapid building, like you think you kind of understand what is like capable in this world, and then all of a sudden, I guess he can build stairs in 2 seconds and have them support himself as he builds them, and build a bridge in like a minute, like just things like that, where it's just kind of like, I guess. Okay.
We're doing that.
That doesn't seem like it's physically possible, even in the world that this art has been established for hundreds of episodes. But this is kind of a comparison thing there.
Yeah, that's just how awesome Frankie is.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think that's probably the most that thing that ever happens in One Piece that I've ever seen that. So that's about as far as it stretches. But yes, that was pretty much
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, this series, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, very much runs on the rule of, who cares if it makes sense if it's cool?
I think in the thread I said something like, "This is so dumb, but so great," or something like that.
No, sort of what Greg said. Like, it runs on. It's, as long as it's cool, it doesn't matter. I feel like we should point out that it's a different kind of cool than like something like Bleach, which also runs on, if it looks cool, it's fine. Like, it's not like edgy or anything. It's just if it's wacky enough.
It's more like,
it's fine.
If it makes you go, ooh, that's interesting, then it's fine.
Yeah, like if it's bizarre, it's okay.
Gurren Lagann's kind of like that too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Gurren Lagann is just like over-the-top insanity from start to finish.
Well, Gurren Lagann is basically, we are going to write in a system that allows us to break any rule we fucking want anytime we want.
Yeah.
Just keep one-upping yourself type of thing.
I mean, they literally designed that so they can go as big as they freaking wanted.
One more thing about this JoJo episode I wanted to mention. They brought back Irina, which I thought, like, when I was first watching it, I didn't know, like, was she a main character? She was in the opening.
She comes back.
And she came back. They kind of left her. JoJo left her, behind again, but she'll stick around for a little bit.
She looked really different. I actually didn't recognize her.
I mean, it's been 7 years or whatever, and you can argue that JoJo and what's his face Dio didn't look like they were 12 or whatever originally.
No, they did
A little
not.
older than 12, and they sounded in English a little.
Oh man, can't wait to part 3, and it's like, here's Jotaro. He's a high schooler. He's also
not a high
7
schooler.
feet tall and built like a
kinda
brick shithouse.
Well, like One Piece, where Zoro is supposed to be 17. Like,
Yeah,
okay.
he don't look no 17.
Like you can
those ages are bullshit.
Like I could maybe see like Nami is 17 or 18. Yeah, I can sort of see
you
that.
can see
Zoro,
Luffy.
Luffy. Like Zoro,
Like Luffy and Usopp being 19. Yeah, okay, I can see that. Zoro, like, he's a grown ass man.
And not even just his English voice about it. Just he looks like he's older than that.
Like he looks like a grown ass man.
Like Zoro has to be early 20s at least.
Yeah.
Well, that's just Japanese anime where like sometimes they look way too old. Sometimes
Everyone
they look
looks
way
like
too young.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. One other thing too about this episode that I've noticed is that they keep changing the ending.
Yep.
And they swap out the characters, which I really like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I like that too. Yeah, part of what I actually really like about JoJo is how they set it up so that no matter like whether or not one like part works, if it doesn't, they can just move on to something else, and you always get something completely different each time.
Well, that'll be more appropriate to talk about when JoJo Part 2 starts, and we can compare.
Right.
And all that.
I mean, I'm just bringing it up because somebody mentioned it's kind of like Dracula in terms of how it's set up a little bit, and it is sort of like that mixed with something like Cloud Atlas. Sort of like the plot, like Dracula's the big bad, but it's mixed with sort of the plot device from Cloud Atlas in a way that it keeps getting different characters and stuff.
Gotcha.
Because I had brought this up earlier, and we didn't really get to talk about it because Dio didn't get revealed as a vampire at that point.
Yeah.
So Dio's off to create his diabolical army
to conquer the world.
He's not. He's just like he's literally just walking around. I am a bad guy.
Yeah, like he's not even pretending to be a good guy or misunderstood or nothing. He's like, I'm the bad guy now.
Yeah, I liked how he just called it. He's just outright my diabolical army. I am putting it together.
He's like, fuck it, I'm the bad guy. I know what story I'm in. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna embrace it. That's what I like about him is he doesn't give a shit. He just embraces what he is. It's like it makes it work.
Every time Dio is on screen, you have no choice but to pay your utmost attention.
Exactly.
And of course, with the time period set, you knew that Jack the Ripper was going to be
definitely
involved somehow.
He's Dio's,
a minor role, but he was.
You may not have expected the most famous uncaught serial killer in human history to just kind of be fodder.
Yeah, like he just died in it took him half an episode, to come in and then die.
Wait, is he dead already?
Yeah,
I mean, we saw him explode.
That was the very end of the episode, like a second before
JoJo exploded his head with his fist.
Like Jonathan sent the Hammond through the wall, and
exploded him.
Jack the Ripper is now a vampire, zombie vampire, and so he just fucking exploded.
Yeah, because that's what they do. They explode.
I guess I got the impression that he was still fighting him because he has to keep holding that wine.
No, he had to keep holding the wine because he had to learn to sense the ripples of whatever.
The wine helped conduct the Hamon, and it was supposed to let him see this is how I can control it, and send it through the wall and explode this guy's head. But it literally did happen as soon as it happened. His head exploded, and not even a second or two later, roundabout starts. I think right at the end of the episode,
I blinked, or maybe I looked down at the thread and was checking to see what people were saying, and I must have missed that instant moment that happened because I don't remember it.
Yeah, no, his head just exploded.
Okay,
it was fantastic.
So what the fuck was that thing he came out with?
It looked like a rib cage like claw thing.
It was just knives, like
Just flying around. Oh, he had knives in his body.
like where did he keep that thing?
He's just like,
that's
also-
what I'm wondering.
Also, apparently, he must have like snuck up on the carriage. He killed the driver. Like
Killed the horses.
cut off the horse's head, put it on the head of the driver just for funsies.
and then got into the horse.
like if you didn't know what series you were watching, that's how you know.
And I actually think C. Kohler mentioned this in the thread, or it might have been Mighty Nine, how like everyone, like just especially Speedwagon, but like every character just like provides exposition.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, that was me. I said that Speedwagon is Mr. Exposition.
yeah, Speedwagon especially. That's like his job. I think someone put it like he's the Greek, whatever.
Yeah. Like he exists to provide necessary exposition and to be the ultimate bro.
Maybe not necessary exposition, but that's just kind of how they do things.
Yeah, like that. Like that's his entire personality: is exposition and bro for the sake of being bro.
And that's also kind of one of those things where it's like, I don't know if it's totally intentional that he does that's what he does, but he does it so. And I don't want to say over the top because I feel like we use that too much, but like the exposition is just so blatant and so blunt that this is exposition. You might as well say I am delivering exposition right now. It almost works better because it is so blatant.
Like they're not trying to hide it.
It's not just him. Some of the other characters are pretty just blatant.
Well, yeah. Well, in this episode, when JoJo gets like his power, he picks up a rock and then literally says, "Lifting this rock is nothing."
And he just pulls the rock out of like nowhere. Just here it is, or this boulder, or whatever he said.
It's like you didn't have to say that. We can see that.
I like how Arena is like, "That's incredible."
Cheesiness that makes this show fun to watch and is also makes it ridiculous is this idea that like everybody says exactly what they're seeing at all times, but in a way that's just funny.
Well, I mean, part of it is they're not trying to pretend that that's not what they're doing. Everyone knows that's exactly what they're doing. Yeah. Like they're not trying to pull one over on you or act like the dialogue is better than it is. They're like, fuck it. This is what we're doing.
I can't. It must have been this way originally, but it feels like it's all intentionally supposed to be tongue in cheek about how over the top it is.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean that's just JoJo. You know, it knows what it is, and it's not going to pretend to be anything else.
I also think this is one of the rare cases I can actually comment on something like this, but I think I'm actually like enjoying this part more in this like group watch setting.
Yeah.
Both seeing not only just the newcomer reactions, because honestly I don't get to see that very often, but
like the newcomer reactions to JoJo, it's like fucking cocaine.
That's what one of
it really is.
Said. Like we have a new member in the thread who's pretty regular because of JoJo, and then there's some other people who are joining in just to watch it.
Yeah.
But it's not only that. I just think just seeing even people who are familiar with this just posting whatever, this show just works for that, and I think it makes it even more fun. Cause I remember this section or this episode feeling slow to me when I first watched it, with like him learning the Ramon or whatever.
But literally, when you look back on it, it's like, "Hello, my name is Will Zeppeli. You know Hammond now. Let's go."
And now you kill a vampire.
Well, I think what you just said is really profound, Seda, because what it is that for ToonamiGAF to work, you need a good mix of people who have seen the show and a mix of people who haven't seen the show.
Or it has to be Space Dandy.
Yeah, or it has to be Space Dandy. Well, I mean, it also
that's a special case.
Well, I mean, it also depends on what the show is, because some shows like they just don't work in a group watch setting, while others are absolutely fantastic.
That's true.
Like, I feel like the more tongue-in-cheek a show is, and the more it realizes what it is and doesn't try and pretend it's not that thing, the better it winds up doing for us.
Like,
Michiko
and Hanchin is probably the best example of a show where maybe we shouldn't have been looking down at our computer screens the whole time.
Yeah, that type of show, like, this is something I liked about it, but like the way that characters spoke with each other, the way that characters spoke with each other, it wasn't. You kind of had to like pay attention to like these not just quips and like lines, but there were slightly longer
facial
conversations.
reactions and,
If he does, let him finish his sentence.
Sorry.
Well, all I was saying was like. I think the way I put it in the thread was some of the dialogue wasn't actually very efficient. It was just characters speaking with each other. So sometimes you may like not be paying attention, but then they'll slip in something important that's like, this is what we're going to do and this is what's happening. And then if you're not paying attention anymore, you're like, wait, what? And with a group watch, that sometimes people got confused, like, wait, what is even happening right now? That's just kind of the way the dialogue worked in that show.
Right.
Yeah.
And Ghost in the Shell, it wasn't quite Ghost in the Shell level, but that's another kind of Ghost in the Shell is a type of show. Like if you want to understand what's going on, you have to pay attention to the dialogue, and there's a lot of it.
Yeah, and I think B-Dubs is right. I mean, like the show type counts, but it also, I think, what I was trying to say earlier was the fact that, like, I think maybe you don't get to see this very often, Seda, but like there are shows that I've watched ahead of Toonami, and you're right. It's so much fun to watch people who haven't seen it and see their reactions. It kind of makes me want to watch certain shows sometimes ahead.
Yeah.
Just so you can see that, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to sometimes provide, like for One Piece, my genuine reactions
Exactly.
at times.
That's what I am this time for this.
Right.
I mean, what sort of helps also, with whether or not a show is any good is like not only, is it very easily understood, but is it just plain silly or not so good or just weird? Like something like Samurai 7. Like we wouldn't watch that on our own. Like I don't think it's something that anyone would pick up or enjoy or anything. But, watching it with everyone else, it's relatively enjoyable if only for, the community aspect and, you make up jokes about it and stuff.
Well, there's kind of a combination of things. Sometimes it's more just for like the fun things, like what do people say about how silly this is or how stupid this is, and the kind of the extreme end of that is a hate watch, like just kind of pointing out everything that's silly. And like I know sometimes that can almost be fatiguing, but sometimes it can be fun. Like with the ToonamiGAF Kill, I was just like it was just so bad that I didn't even want to hate watch it. But like sometimes it's like for Gundam or other shows, sometimes it's also just the more genuine, here's what I think about this and why it works or why it doesn't. So it's kind of like a combination of both like this fun and serious conversation that we can sometimes have. So it's kind of a mix of everything.
Right. And it's also how the conversation can at times redeem something that is just plain boring. And, like going back to Samurai 7, like there were parts of that show that were just, it really was, but it's sort of the best example I can think of. Like it's almost irredeemably boring at times, but I also love,
sorry, I thought you were done.
But some of what happens on there is just so ridiculous in terms of the actual story, like the guy who sold his friggin' wife.
Sorry, I was actually just about to mention that, and I just I almost stole it from you. I love how that actually like just even recently shows up in the thread nowadays. We're still referencing it.
Yeah, like that, and every time that guy complained, "Oh, this guy kidnapped my wife," and we're like, "No, you sold him. You told us you sold him. You sold your wife." Like it's supposed to be like this melodramatic thing that's turned funny because of either a mistranslation or a badly written line or whatever.
Kind of the same thing with Good Guy Satan, because like Blue Exorcist, it tried to pull off Good Guy Satan in the most serious, straightforward way possible,
and it was just silly.
And so like it kind of became like a thread-in joke of obviously trying to make a character who is as despicable as Satan as like trying to gain empathy for that.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that.
And I mean, like going into that, I think part of what makes, the good shows we've seen good, and this, ties back to JoJo, is they don't pretend to be things that they aren't. Like you're never going to have like a Good Guy Satan situation in JoJo. They're not going to try and they're not going to try and redeem Dio. Dio knows he's irredeemable for fuck's sake.
JoJo, very much, it tells you these are the good guys, these are the bad guys, and if there's somebody who's a little bit in between, it makes very sure to tell you this guy's a little bit in between.
Yeah, but it's also that JoJo knows exactly the kind of story it is, and it plays into that in everything that it does. Like, it knows that it's a little bit wacky. It knows it can be ham-fisted. It knows it can be cheesy. It knows it can be over the top. And so it just leans into all those, like, normally those would be critiques, but it leans so far into it that you're just like, yeah, okay, this is fun. You know, like, the problems come when you try and, go halfway with anything. Any one of those things.
I think in a nutshell, what you're saying is like this. Depending on the tone of the show,
Right.
It depends. It like a show like JoJo, like you can criticize it for being stupid or like not. Maybe it doesn't make sense at times, but like it's kind of that's like a different criticism for a show like JoJo than for like a show like Naruto.
Yeah.
Like because it's not something you can put easily into categories, but like. If Naruto does something stupid, it's a little bit different than if JoJo does something stupid.
Right,
you know?
because Naruto is trying generally to play everything seriously, whereas JoJo is just madness from beginning to end.
And I'm not saying that like JoJo
isn't serious. No,
I'm not saying you can't criticize it. It's the type of show where it's impossible to criticize. It's just that it makes it so much easier to accept stupid things.
Yes.
So
because JoJo leans into it, it knows it does stupid things, and it's not going to pretend it doesn't.
That's what I've always referred to as a fun show. A fun show is a show like JoJo that bends the reality and does silly things, but you allow it because it's fun. And Naruto is not a fun show because it takes everything so seriously and leans so much on melodrama that when something stupid happens, you just want to criticize it.
Exactly. Like Naruto, like stupid stuff doesn't happen all the time. Well, it does sort of happen all the time, but I mean,
I know what you mean.
Yeah, but it's just one of those situations where it doesn't intentionally do those things, and we can be a little more forgiving for something that intentionally does something stupid than unintentionally. I mean, it's
Anyways,
sort of like
I think we might have exhausted our discussion on JoJo and show tonality, but I think it was a good discussion.
Yeah.
Well, let's move into another, prepackaged, discussion on show tonality with Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans.
Oh, nice.
Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans, episode 21, To the Place of Return. So I just want to say I called that bump when they do their little spiel and then the guy gets shot.
Yeah, no, you called it.
I'm just like, hey!
That's going to be a bump.
But anyway.
Yeah.
So this is a battle episode, and
those are good.
A lot of people mentioned this, but it did seem a lot. It did give it an Eureka 7 feel, and not just because of mobile suits on skateboards, but just kind of almost the art and the fact it was playing on a beach with a lot of trees and things like that. That kind of felt like Eureka 7, another mech show.
Like the setting and how the battle, took place, and I mean the
yes, this records. Like Eureka 7 had a bunch of like battles in the clouds and then battles over water and things like that.
On beaches and
there's Eureka 7 has an infamous beach, although it's not really a fight scene.
No, there aren't.
But so I guess the main thing in this episode happened at the end. Biscuit died.
And he's dead because they brought back the first ending.
Yeah. He's gone to that great big Cheddar Bay in the sky.
So I want to mention a couple things on this. First of all, there was an episode, a couple of weeks back, 4 or 5 weeks ago, where it had Biscuit talking to one of the other, like, not as prominent members. I think his name is Takaki. And they were both talking about basically returning home back then. Right. And back then, I kind of felt like, oh, these are death flags.
Yeah.
But nothing really came of that right away. But then in this episode, they kind of brought back Biscuit death flags.
Well, not kind of.
In your face.
They plastered it all over the episode.
Yeah, so, like, I thought, like, I think the way that they kind of, in a lot of shows and anime and stories do this, the way they kind of, like, prep it is just kind of a little bit unbelievable and a little bit just kind of, it almost lessens the impact a bit because it's like, thank you for telling me, like this is going to happen before it happened. Like I almost think it would have been better if they didn't like the Death Flag 5 episodes ago was maybe it, and then they just kind of followed up on it now, rather than having it be like this immediate within a singular episode thing.
Right. It did feel a lot like they were hitting us over the head with, Biscuit's not going to last to the end of the episode. And I do feel like maybe they would have been better off having this be a subversion of it, partly because it was so obvious that it was coming, and also because honestly Biscuit's like the only character I liked at this point.
I like Biscuit. Like, first of all, just his character doesn't really fit super easily into like a pigeonhole, like a trope. I mean, a little bit. There's every character ever is going to have some trope aspect to him. But like he wasn't like the muscular guy. But he wasn't like the nerd either.
He wasn't the fat guy. He
wasn't the butt of the joke. Like, he wasn't just a joke character because he was a little bit overweight or whatever.
Well, he was the butt of the joke because his name is Biscuit. But
that's true.
Yeah.
So, like, he always the way he contributed to discussions and communicated with the other characters, like, he was a main character.
Yeah.
And it was pretty clear that Orga respected him, Mika respected him, and basically characters like. It was pretty clear that he was liked by the other characters. That's one thing I think the show does generally pretty well in places, is how these characters
interact with it. Yeah.
But I do think that the storyline, because his main contribution to the storyline was this thing with his brother, and that I felt wasn't very strong.
No.
So, like, I liked Biscuit as a character, but this kind of the storyline with his brother who hung himself, which we talked about in a previous episode, and the way that his death was foreshadowed so heavily, I think does diminish this a little bit.
The fact that happened, I mean, it's also like, how do I say it? It really did feel like Biscuit was probably the most well-rounded character on the cast, if only because he was, and not only was he not so easily pigeonholed, as Seda pointed out, but he had a little bit more depth to him than, say like Mika or Orga or Crudelia or whatever. Like, I'm not sure if it was just perceived or actual, but he did feel like a little more meaty than everyone else did.
No, like, you're right. He was, and the reason is because it was hard to guess what he was going to do or say, and that's what made him feel more like a real character, because he wasn't he would be like, sometimes he would be on their side, and other times he'd be like, this is a bad idea.
Yeah.
On upstairs than most of the characters that are just kind of stereotypes.
Mika, I like Mika's personality, but it is a little bit more straight. Like, you can kind of expect this is what Mika's going to act like. His patterns are a little bit more predictable, and like Orga is kind of like the leader, and he's got those leadership type qualities, so you kind of know like the types of things he's going to say and do. And then you have characters like Eugene and characters like Akihiro, which are a little bit more tropey, obviously Eugene's like the hothead.
Eugene is hot-headed, punch people in the face. Akihiro is cold.
And Akihiro is just kind of like the
opposite,
cool, punch people in the face.
So Biscuit, like, you can't really describe who is Biscuit so easily.
Yeah,
with like a single
it takes more than a sentence to describe Biscuit, and I feel like if this was a show filled with biscuits, it'd be a little better off.
Oh, if this was a show filled with biscuits, it would be great.
It would be a delicious show.
I mean that in every possible way.
I like how you could just say that and just, like, it makes sense. A show full of biscuits.
Like, it works on multiple levels.
Yeah. I will say that we were really down on IBO for a while, and we had every reason to be with Dort and all that garbage, but this episode really elevated the show back up a lot for me. And I think that death scene at the very end of this episode was super effective. I was really actually a little choked up about it, the way it was done. And then just the thought of, like, they cut over to like Cookie and Cracker on Mars, and they're like, man, they're going to have to break the news to them. And it's like, it was a pretty well done scene.
And also, I felt it wasn't over dramatic. Like, it showed Orga like reaching for him, and then Orga screamed. Like, so that's maybe a tad over dramatic, but I felt like
the way that the music was playing,
I do think the way that JYB performed that scream,
Yes.
and the way that Biscuit, said his final lines, I do think those were all pretty appropriately done enough so that it wasn't too little and it wasn't too much.
That scream was well acted, because I was really expecting a cheesy, crappy
Biscuit or something like that.
Yeah, but it was.
You were expecting the what's his face from Bleach.
Oh God.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. I just can't remember.
But no, I think
Staleygasm.
Yeah, that like it. First of all, I think the relationship between Orga and Biscuit, they've had enough scenes together that like we understand, at least to some extent, the relationship between these characters. And then the way that JYB performed that scream, it actually sounded like someone who was emotionally distraught because his friend just got murdered.
Yeah, right.
And it sounded genuine instead of like a normal anime. A more typical, anime, like yelling of someone's name. I do like that it was more just a scream and not Biscuit or something like that.
Like that would just sound silly too. Like if he just yelled out Biscuit, we'd be like Cheddar Bay or cheese and crackers.
And not just that his name is Biscuit, but I think just the yelling of a name.
Like I feel like that's the easiest sort of line to screw up. Sort of like the yelling of someone's name in anguish, because like it's so hard to get like actual emotion behind it. I feel like
I just feel like it feels more genuine if it's just a scream of anguish.
Yeah.
So that feels like something. Obviously, being murdered by a mobile suit isn't something you'll encounter in real life, but it sounds like I would expect someone who's distressed, like in a very emotionally tense situation like that, wouldn't yell out their name. That just That's what I'm getting at.
The only other thing I'll say about this episode was this new female character who is in every respect to me a really crappy Satsuki knockoff from Kill la Kill.
Oh God!
To the point that she even does the stance that Satsuki does in Kill la Kill with her like sword.
The difference is that she's kind of like goofball.
Yeah, she's a goofball version.
I think that stance is a pretty common fencing stance.
Oh no, I know they didn't rip it off, but it's just that like you get the same voice actors to do basically the same role, and then you have them the same pose. It's almost like
basically give them the same character. Yeah.
But I do agree with, I don't know if B-Dubs or Greg said this, like I think this character is clearly they killed off the main character, so they're not like a joke villain, but they're not meant to be like this is your main antagonist or even quite a serious antagonist. She's kind of like a
general.
She's kind of more like as an antagonist, like she's dangerous. Like clearly she killed somebody, but she's more of just like unhinged, crazy, silly, almost more so than like this guy is actually a well-written villain, So because she's not.
Right.
Unfortunately, I don't think there are any well-written villains so far.
That goes to a little larger point where I'm a little bit like Gallerhorn as a whole just doesn't.
It's not threatening.
I feel like, I mean, they clearly do bad things at times, but I feel like, well, yeah, we're getting back to an older discussion.
Yeah,
it's just like
I still don't know why.
Like obviously,
why were they? We know that they wanted to prevent Cordelia from reaching Earth, and they were like they were willing to kill her to do that, and they just I feel like.
I think let's not go down this rabbit hole, but I will just say that I think it's just money. It's just some kind of stupid money thing. There's people in power. They want money.
The hair gel
mines. The hair gel mines, and just leave it at that.
Yeah. Those hair gel mines on Europa are very profitable.
Yes they are.
Therefore, the Mars independence movement must be must be crushed.
I think that's the best explanation we've gotten.
Is hair gel mines. It's really sad that that's the best explanation we have, and we're almost done with season 1.
Yep.
I mean,
like 4
damn.
episodes left?
Yeah, seriously, we should have gotten an explanation like 3 episodes in at the most.
Well, there's not 4 episodes left. There's 4 episodes left in an entire second season.
Yeah.
That they, Gundam shows they know going in that they're going to have 50 episodes.
And I made the argument earlier that this show maybe is
It would be
being
better
a
if it
little
was
bit
shorter.
some of the quality, like it might have been better if it was a little bit more condensed in some of these places. I do feel like some of these things have taken too long to kind of establish, and
Right.
I don't mean to sound like I'm impatient, but I do feel like they're stretching some things and introducing some things that maybe just didn't need to be just to fill time.
Right.
So
That's IBO in a nutshell.
Yeah, it just seems like the pacing for large parts of the plot are completely borked for, probably because it's got to be 50 episodes.
Like we spent 4 episodes with Dort, and then like
instead of finding out why,
and then we learn later, like, oh, apparently their revolution like wrapped up like in one day or something.
It's like, hey, Dort was just completely wrapped up in a nice, neat bow, just off screen.
You can either call that the Dort arc or the Fumitan arc, but either way, they're meaningless and inconsequential to the story. So
exactly. And
by the way,
what sucks.
By the way, what?
By the way, sequel, the title of this episode is A Show Full of Biscuits.
Okay, thank you.
God,
that's what I needed to know.
Of course it is.
First of all, what was this Mobile Suit episode called?
It was called. I said it was called
The Place of Return.
To the Place of Return.
Oh, okay. I thought the actual name of the episode was A Show Full of Biscuits, and I'm like, they didn't actually do that. I'm like, the IBO writers are not that clever.
I think that's it for IBO.
Yep. So let's move on to Hunter x Hunter.
Yay.
Hunter x Hunter episode 27, Arrival at the Arena.
Oh,
hey! What?
Whatever they're saying.
Oh, jeez. I was like, what the fuck? You don't expect the, teacher of the, big power in the show to be just like this tall, lanky dude with glasses.
He looks like Brock.
But he is. He looks a little bit like one of those guys from the Sensui arc in Yu Yu Hakusho.
He looks like he walked out of Detective Conan.
What's his name?
A little bit, yeah.
His name
Detective
is Wing.
Conan?
Wing, that's right. The Wing is like when I see his animated, like I don't know how old this character is supposed to be. Like he looks like in some shots he could be like early 20s with glasses, but in other shots like he's 35. Like I'm not exactly sure how old he's supposed to be.
Well, that's going to get a little more confusing as the series goes on and you discover what Nen can do.
Oh. Like at first I thought he was just another participant, like, oh, he's a teacher, but maybe he's a young teacher, but apparently like he's like really experienced, and just going by what people have said in the thread, it's like maybe he's a lot older than I thought, like he's like a full-grown middle-aged adult and he just looks a lot younger. I don't know.
Well, he definitely has a voice on him.
Yes. And
the voice of the gods!
Like a Fufro Da.
Yeah, and we can finally talk about Nen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Don't you mean Ren?
Oh no!
No, they called it Ren. People in the thread were confused. Like, wait, that's how they're translating Nen?
No.
But no, it's like Ren plus 10 plus like Tatsi plus something else.
It's no. Nen. I got it in front of me. It's Ren, Ten, Zetsu, and Hatsu is Nen.
Okay, so Ben 10, Zetsu from Shippuden.
Yes.
And Hatsune Miku. Okay, yes. I think I've got it.
That's how Nen works. You combine those things, and that's how it works.
You know what? That's really interesting, considering I don't know what any of them are.
Well,
that gets explained next episode.
I think it was supposed to be. I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be nonsense because
like the reaction of the characters is like, what the fuck?
Yeah, what's the eyebrows kid's name? I forget.
The eyebrows?
Zushi?
Zushi. Yes.
Zushi. He was basically like, it's simple, Ren, and then Zen or Nen is Ren plus all these things, and then Killua was like, start making sense. So I'm pretty sure it's meant to be.
They're not supposed to know what any of this stuff is yet.
But does Killua know? Because he did have that moment where he kind of recognized it.
I think he just recognized it as dangerous, but he didn't know what it was. He's like,
okay.
He's seen it used before. He just has no idea.
That's right.
It was.
His brother has something similar or uses.
Yeah. Not only his brother.
That's why he recognized it as dangerous. He's like, whatever this is, it feels like what my brother does. I need to know what it is.
Like, we've seen a couple of characters use it at this point.
Yeah. Well, this is pretty exciting time, I think, in the show because clearly they're elevating. Everything's being elevated now suddenly by this new ability. So
elevated, literally.
I kind of like how
they're.
I do kind of like. I know this is a very simple thing, but the introducing characters like Zushi, which I assume will stick around at least a while for this arc. I have no idea how long he'll stick around. Right.
Oh, speaking of which, the new opening and endings, I really like the new opening a lot.
It's a different version of the same song, but it's got all totally different visuals. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the visuals a lot more.
And I don't know. This is just kind of bookkeeping for later, but should we count it separately for the awards?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they're two different.
The visuals
songs.
are totally different.
Well, here's what we'll do. Because it comes in so late, we'll just bump it to next year.
Well, whatever you want to do.
Oh, sure.
One person, Big Crab, noted that Kurapika, like if you thought he looked kind of feminine before, that opening makes him look real feminine.
Yeah.
with the
Tagashi loves his androgynous men.
Hold on, let me pull this lock of hair out of my eye.
Yeah, it's because his hair is so long, so it kind of like it could be a woman's hair, but also his eyes are just so big that it seems so.
All the better to turn red with. he needs big eyes to use his Sharingan.
Well, I think his eyes are way bigger than anyone else's. So.
The only other thing I'll say about this episode, or at least that I wrote down, was, and I know this is I'm not supposed to take this seriously, or I don't think, it's not a big deal or anything, but it made me chuckle, is the logo for this, whatever it's called, what's it called? Heaven's Arena?
Yeah.
The logo is just a
close
tile-drawn fist with an explosion around it, and everybody at the place is wearing that logo, and it looks so dorky.
It's awesome. Are you kidding me? No, it's...
All right, we've got to train hard. Mr. Miyagi's got his new student coming in. We've got to protect the pride of our JoJo.
No, it's just it is a very, very silly thing.
It's comically cartoonish looking.
It's like Tagashi couldn't be bothered to come up with an actual logo. He's like, it's good enough.
Yeah.
What is a unique logo for this arena? How about a fist with an explosion?
Yeah.
I kind of like it. I mean,
yeah. No, I like it too. It just felt like his editors were like, you can't play Dragon Quest until you come up with a logo, and he's like, done.
One thing I want to mention in the English dub, like I don't know how any of these characters sound in Japanese, but Killua, I think, sounds a little bit different, and not just a little bit than what he originally kind of started in the first several episodes. I think Christina V, I guess, doesn't do young men characters very often. It kind of feels like starting to get a little bit more and settle down into what type of voice she wants to do for Killua.
Mm-hmm.
It was just something I noticed. Like he kind of sounds just a tad different than what he originally sounded like, which I know that's common for anything that's voiced. They kind of settle into what they want.
I mean, she settled in really well to the.
But I like her voice. I do remember when people who are comparing this to Japanese voices, that was the one complained. That was maybe. I don't want to say they complained, but it was the most different. But that was just something like I picked up on. It's hard to describe. Like how does it sound different? But it was just a little bit different. Then I just kind of noticed that. There was just something I noticed when watching the episode.
Maybe it's different because he had a big character arc or something. I don't know.
I'm not saying it's intentional. I'm just saying it's kind of settled in now.
So an episode full of one chop.
I like Zuchi. He gave me Rock Lee vibes.
Yes, he did. I mean,
not so silly, but gave me vibes.
I can't say that because that's something we can't talk about till later.
Well, save it then.
Damn. Yeah.
I guess one other thing. I guess the only other thing to mention was that, first of all, in the thread, there's a lot of people who haven't seen this show, which is like we were talking about earlier. It's kind of nice, like including me. I haven't seen it. So like when we see like Killua versus Zuchi. Like up to this point, Killua has been basically unstoppable.
Right.
and he's even said like he's made it to the 200th floor or whatever. But like
he made it up to there, but he never actually went to the 200th floor.
So like we were kind of wondering, is Zushi gonna make him sweat? Like, is Zushi gonna put up a fight? And I think it was kind of interesting the way it was handled. Like, he didn't really put up a fight, but he
just
wouldn't
couldn't
go
put him
down. And then he was kind of introduced. That's how they decided. Togashi decided to introduce this whole Nen thing. Was like, what is this guy has some ability, even though he didn't put up a fight. I just feel like it was unique enough to be like. That was unexpected. That was he
Right.
just wouldn't go down.
I'm in the same boat, Seda. I did not expect that to happen, and I agree that if there's one thing this series seems to do very well is it is throwing your expectations kind of on its head. So yeah, I like the way they did this.
Like that's sort of Hunter x Hunter's, modus operandi is it's going to take what you expected, not going to give it to you entirely. It's going to give you part of it, but it's going to change it up enough. You're like, oh, I didn't see that coming.
I feel like if Killua just knocked him out and that was it, it'd be like, well, what was the point? Like that wasn't going to happen. They weren't going to set it up if that was going to happen. But if Zushi like put up a fight, I almost feel like that was almost too expected also. So I feel like just the way they did it was just different enough than what I was expecting to be like, okay, I like this, and how they kind of use that as the stepping stone. Let's introduce Ren or Nen or whatever. So
yeah. Well, I mean, they have to put something in. I mean, just in terms of keeping the story going, I think they did need like a power type thing.
And I think this is better done than something like Bleach, where it's just like, here are a bunch of new characters, and like, who the heck are they? And then they go from there.
And then do we care?
They introduce just a couple of characters and do
at
it
a time.
That seems, just more properly done.
Right, like instead of getting, just 10 new characters at the start of an arc, and like, who are these people? Why do we care?
Especially because Bleach does that over and over. So it's not just like they did it with the Vizards, they did it with the Fullbringer.
They did it with everyone.
Yeah, heck, even with the original Soul Society, it's just they do it. So I think that this was very, very neatly done.
Right.
That it wasn't so just outlandish.
So you guys have anything else on this?
I don't think so.
I really want to talk about Nen, but that's next episode.
All right, let's save it then.
Here, for people who have seen this before, like Nen, for me, I'm just assuming it's like some sort of inner power, like chakra or ki or whatever. Like, I don't know how I expect it to be different from the other shonen. I'm just saying that's my prediction is just some sort of inner power, but like I don't know how off the mark.
I would follow you on that prediction. Again, I don't know what's going to happen. I haven't seen this show, but yeah, that feels like. It feels like to me that they know something about like chi that normal people don't. So hopefully, well, we'll see. Maybe it'll be even cooler than that. I have no idea.
And I know One Piece has Hachi or something like that, which they mentioned. Haki, which they've mentioned, and apparently some characters exhibit some amount of it somehow.
We've
been mentioned.
We've seen people use it. Already.
It's been mentioned, and we've seen like snippets of it, but it hasn't been explained. So it's like that's another thing where it's like I don't really know how this works.
Before you move on, though, I'm just curious. Where do you remember seeing it mentioned? Because I don't.
Think when Shanks and Whitebeard met.
Yeah.
Did they say
when Shanks was going up to Whitebeard on his boat? A bunch of the soldiers started getting knocked out just randomly, and it was apparently due to the power of his haki.
Okay.
So basically, Shanks just being around Shanks just knocks you unconscious if you're
right. So I just don't remember in the show them actually saying the word, but I guess you're right. I forgot that.
They did say that, and also
I believe it's Marco who was like, "Man, his hockey's pretty his hockey's really strong."
Gotcha.
So my impression at this point is it's kind of like Bleach's spiritual pressure.
It is basically that.
No, it's a little better put together.
I'm just providing my thoughts at this point, like as someone who actually doesn't know what it is. This is what I think it is. And,
it's kind of the same basic idea, at least.
Later, I'll figure out how off the mark I am.
I mean, the thing with Nen, the reason everybody likes it so much is because how well put together and thought out it is.
Oh, cool.
So it's sort of like this thing.
Don't say too much.
Yeah, we don't want to know too much.
Right. Okay.
This sounds cool. So yeah, what you said about spiritual pressure actually feels like that feels a little even closer. earlier with about ki. Yeah, I like that.
That's the leeches thing is. Yeah.
Yeah, because it does more than just give you strength. I guess it does other things.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we can go on to the next show.
Yep,
I
sure.
guess.
Naruto Shippuden. Naruto Shippuden episode 134, Banquet Invitation. Episode does not contain any banquets.
It does
So
contain Toby.
I don't know why. Oh yeah, Toby.
Oh, Toby, you're a good boy.
He's a good boy.
Yes, he is. It's the dumbest joke ever.
So I don't know why the show continues to do the thing where it's like, oh look, character meets other character who is super strong, but character defeats super strong character immediately. I guess it's he's like, it's a fucking shadow clone. Come on.
Yeah.
It's always that clone.
Everything is clones, and if it's not, it's a log.
So this is coming off of this Jiraiya mini arc. It kind of went back into routine, like, oh, here's Sasuke and his idiot group, and here's the Leaf Ninja who
They're a perfect team,
and the Leaf
They're
Ninjas are always seem kind of incompetent.
Everyone's incompetent.
So I kind of felt like it was more return to form, which in Naruto's case isn't a good thing.
No.
I actually did look this up. Naruto, especially this arc, they go for long sections without actually showing Naruto, like focusing on other characters. And the next 4 episodes, I think, are Sasuke episodes, like or something like that.
That's usually good.
They're actually Sasuke episodes and not Sasuke's posse episodes. But it's anyways. I was just curious, like, because I remembered like Naruto that barely shows up in this arc, which is one reason why we kind of jokingly call it Sasuke Shippuden. But Naruto tends to be a little bit better when it's not focusing on Naruto. So.
That's my point. Yeah.
I mean, Naruto is better when it's focusing on Naruto not fighting and doing other stuff.
Anyways. So I think Seacoler mentioned this briefly, but like this is the episode where it's painfully obvious that like Sasuke's little group really feels pointless. He literally put them together, and he even said, like, I put you together so I could take on Itachi. And then he's literally like, actually, no, you guys stay here.
Like a dude shows up and says, hey, they can't come, and he's like, okay, fuck you guys.
And it's
like, perfect team.
Like, they did a couple of tiny things. Like, I guess the bird guy talked to some birds, and he said they might be around here.
The bird guy.
And then Karen warned them once that the Leaf Ninja were coming, but they just feel like they're so pointless. Like they were literally. It just feels painfully obvious that they're added at the whim of an editor.
You know what? Actually, I just had an epiphany that might explain the perfect team. And this isn't even a joke. This is like me trying to give Shippuden a chance. What it might be is that because Itachi isn't by himself, he's got like the shark guy with him. And I guess other people probably.
No, he's just got Shark Guy.
Okay, whatever. So he's got Shark
pairs.
But maybe what Sasuke's plan is that he's going to go and face off with Itachi one-on-one, and then team is out there to fight whoever is on Itachi's side to keep them away from the fight.
Well, I mean, that makes sense from a plot standpoint, but dear God, is his team incompetent?
Yeah.
Like, they're just straight garbage that's getting played with, I mean, even if he didn't have this team, I doubt, Sharknado would have even bothered interfering with the fight. Like he doesn't seem like the sort of dude that's going to help out, Like, I see him as like that guy, he's just sort of there, and, if Itachi gets killed, he gets killed, he'll laugh at him, that's about it.
I'm going to call this part Sharknado versus the perfect team.
So we meet Toby again, and I think this is the first time we see Toby in his Toby persona, but we know that that's not his actual persona. Like this is the first time we know that he's kind of just goofing around and being fake.
I remember 10, 20, I don't know how many episodes ago, 10 episodes ago, when I asked the question, why is he doing this?
Because he's a dumbass.
Why is he acting like an idiot? And now more than ever do I want an answer to that, because now he's doing it for no reason.
Because he's a dumbass. What do you want from me?
Surely no one will ever suspect that he is the mastermind of everything when he runs around acting like a dumbass.
I will say
at
this point they have given some hints that he is more dangerous than he appears.
Yeah.
Even when Sasuke was taking on Deidara, like Sasuke basically it looked like he knocked out Toby, and then Toby just kind of got back up like it was nothing. And I think Sasuke mentioned like something, to himself, that guy, like what the heck was that? And then now he's just like, even though he's just like this raging lunatic goofball, like the Leaf Ninja literally are like powerless against them in the silliest way.
Yeah,
the best part is that it literally feels like they could just walk around him.
But they can't. That's the weird. That's kind of the thing that makes even seems sillier. Is like they try to go around him, and he just kind of pops up, and he's like, "You're not getting around me." And it kind of feels really silly that like you really can't get around this guy.
Like he's literally popping up like a whack-a-mole.
Like the whole thing is just dumb.
Well, I mean, here's the thing: is okay. So I think at this point they recognize that he's very powerful. I think one of them said it. They was like, "This guy's way stronger than he looks," or whatever. So why the trick? Why fake it? Like if he's how does it help?
I think it's partially just kind of
like misdirection.
Misdirection. Kind of lower their guard, like make them misunderestimate like how powerful and how capable he is.
I mean, that's only going to work so long.
Well, he's already appeared in front of them with the silly persona, and if he just suddenly switched to his regular persona, they'd be like, "Oh shit, this guy's probably the leader."
Well, no,
but if he's so strong, then what does it matter?
Yeah,
because he's not trying to kill them yet. I mean, obviously, if he wanted to, he could end them right now.
Well, also, most of the other Akatsuki don't even know that. Most of the other Akatsuki, even though a lot of them are dead now, don't even know that he's actually the leader.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, who would think he would be the leader? You got the guy with the 6 bodies and the magic eyeballs.
So what you're saying is that he has to hide how powerful he is from everyone, otherwise they'll know how powerful he is?
I think it's more that he's just being extra secretive. Like
I think he's just portraying himself as a super powerful dipshit.
I mean, he's just a dumbass.
For no reason. He doesn't have a reason to, though. If he's as strong as he is, then why didn't just be a badass?
Because he's a dumbass.
Okay, whatever. We're going in circles. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I get what you're saying. He's trying to hide it, but I'm saying I don't think he has a reason to hide it.
Okay, so let's assume his primary drive is to hide the fact that he's running the Akatsuki, right?
Right.
The fact that he is the very fact that he's in the Akatsuki means he's powerful. Yes. So it's like the fact that the second you show up in those red robes, it's like, okay, that guy's strong.
Yeah, they know what's up the second you show up. No matter how friggin' dumb you act, they know that, oh, hey, we shouldn't go easy on this guy.
So the dumb act is to hide how in charge of everything he is.
Well, I mean, he doesn't even need to act dumb in order to do that, He just needs to act subservient to pain, and then you're, problem solved.
Well, at this point, he's already, I guess that you can make the argument he never needed to act like that, but now that he's started, he can't just drop it, because then that's like, wait, what the fuck?
This is kind of really digging into the world story, and it makes sense. No, this is kind of maybe too much of an explanation, that maybe for something that doesn't really need one. But there is Zetsu, who watches everything, and if Zetsu doesn't know the leader, he's got to pretend like he's a goofball no matter where he is, because Zetsu is watching closely.
When you find out the thing about Zetsu, that entire thing falls apart.
Okay. I'm just trying to go up with some reason. Yeah.
No, that entire...
The best reason I've heard is that maybe he doesn't want the other Akatsuki to know that he's in charge in case they try to gang up on him, maybe?
They couldn't even touch him.
All right. So I'm still right. He doesn't have a reason to do it. Maybe this is his thing. Like he just loves getting off on like acting like an idiot around people.
When like this is his actual personality, but when he's the leader, he can't act like this, so he just kind of embraces it.
I guess that could be the thing.
I'm not being totally serious.
Honestly, that wouldn't surprise me at all.
Who was it in this episode who said, "You're such a dunce"?
That was Karen to one of the other perfect team members.
Okay.
Well,
The perfect team.
I will admit, I liked Ali Hillis's delivery on that. Actually, it's like, you're such a dunce.
Yeah, it's very Valley Girl.
I mean, that entire team is just stupid. I mean, we got Sharknado Jr., Wet Panties, Bird Guy, and
Bird Guy, and I don't know what the other guy is. Waterman.
No, that's Sharknado Jr.
The team literally consists of, high school teenager, slippery when wet, and Android 16.
Truly a perfect team.
Wait, which one is slippery when wet? Because that can apply to two.
Oh, that's true.
Fucking hell. Oh.
I'm done with this episode if you guys are.
I'm done.
I think we're done.
Okay, One Piece. One Piece episode 368, The Silent Assault, The Mysterious Visitor, Tyrant Kuma.
He's got the poof fruit.
So if you could go on a vacation, where would you want to go?
Like, Kuma's legit.
Okay, so I think I'm the only person here who hasn't seen this. Mm-hmm. So like I know that Kuma is one of the warlords.
Yes.
And this is the first time we see his power, which from my perspective, he looks like he can teleport to places. I don't know what the limits or restrictions on that are, but he can just kind of warp around very quickly. So my first thought is like, can he teleport, or maybe it's more like a time stop
and
thing?
For everybody else, don't say what his power is, whether he's right or wrong, because he might be right, he might be wrong. Don't say anything. Let him know.
I'm just kind of considering like maybe it's like a time stop thing where he can slow down time and then do whatever he wants, but to everyone else it looks like he's teleporting. Or maybe I joked and called it the poof fruit. It looks like he can just kind of poof anywhere, not only himself but someone else. One thing
you do know is that when a guy shows up in a show where like that flash step thing isn't a common thing and he can do that, you better fucking run.
Yeah, there hasn't been any other character like this so far that basically can teleport. That's what it looks like he can do. So those are my two thoughts. He either can actually teleport physical places, or it's more like a time stop thing.
And
I do want to point out that when translated, his name is Bartholomew Bear.
Yes.
Just like
Bartholomew Bear.
Like let's just get it out there as Bartholomew Bear, and like.
It is weird that they didn't translate this name and they do so many others. I mean, or the other way around, that they, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, I mean,
there's just some words
that
sound better in Japanese, like call him Kuma. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, it's also because of the connotations. It's like, who's going to be scared of Bartholomew Bear? You know?
I guess, but like they didn't change Gecko Moria's name, to keep it the same. You know what I mean? It's just weird.
I mean, Gecko Moria works as like a silly thing. Bartholomew Bear is like
a creative decision. It was just interesting that they didn't change, or they changed his name.
This is not related to anything, but one name that seems common that is like seems like it's just sometimes it's translated, sometimes it's not, is Neko. Because sometimes it's just translated as Neko, and sometimes it's like cat. But like cat can also be a girl's name. So it's like sometimes they just keep it as Neko, sometimes they just call them cat, like the name cat.
Right.
Inu is the same way. Dog.
Yeah, Inu and dog. Well, no one calls dog doesn't work as a name though. Cat can kind of work as a name. So
I mean, you can call a guy dog. Like some dog.
Dog the bounty hunter.
What does Inuyasha mean? Doesn't that just mean like dog?
Like dog person.
I think.
What if they just called it dog demon? It's not dog demon. That'd be like more like Oni Inu or something.
Hang on,
So in this episode, just to give a quick recap, the Straw Hat crew minus Luffy and Nami continue to battle Oars and actually do pretty good with him. Nami gets information from the two. Well, Seda keeps calling them something. What do you call those guys? The two little squirrels. Chippendale, yeah. So she gets the information from them that Perona has taken all of the money and stored it on the Sunny in order to steal the Sunny. So she runs down there, finds that Perona and Kuma have a face-off, which lasts 10 seconds, but is really funny. And then that's pretty much it. Now Nami thinks she, rather than leave, she wants to warn everybody about this guy.
Nami is basically the audience surrogate here. Like, oh shit, this guy is dangerous. Yeah. So
and then she makes a. We were talking about Frankie's amazing skill, bridge building skills, and then she finds the bridge and she's like, "Wait, what the fuck is this bridge?"
I do like how they reference it. Like, wow, this bridge looks really nice, and it's different from all the other ones. It's too narrow though.
That was funny. Have Grex and B-Dubs, did either of you read the manga?
Yeah.
I have all the volumes.
Okay, so tell me, was the docking 3, is that canon?
I don't actually remember.
I think I from what I've read in the thread is in the manga they do it once, but in the anime they kind of like brought it up for the second episode in a row. Just
Greg
kind of
said
like, let's do it again.
So docking 3 was in the manga.
Oh, you mean docking 3 is the second one?
Yeah. Because it felt fillery.
The way I gathered it from what people were saying in the thread was like the first time they did it, where they failed trying to do docking 5 or.
Yep, I'm looking at it right now. It's in volume 49.
Okay, it's there.
Interesting.
Cool.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes it even cooler to me that they did it a second time, and then the whole thing was to get on his head so that he could hit himself on the head.
Yeah.
I liked the succession of, faces after he gets stuck in the ground.
Oh, wow.
Like everyone's just like, what?
Those are the most evil-looking portraits of the crew ever.
Those types, I know it's not really a reaction shot, but those types of like face pans, like those work where the normal types of reaction shots just are just always, no matter what, just blah. Mm-hmm. But I know it's not really a reaction shot, but it just they're having like all the characters drawn in a very different than usual menacing art style. It just
that's awesome.
It's just a small cool thing.
The only bad thing about this episode, honestly, I thought it was really good, was that just more Luffy chasing shadows, literally chasing shadows.
I mean, are we surprised?
No.
We talked about in a previous episode how Luffy kind of always manages to be like sidelined for a bit, sometimes for a silly reason, because
because they can't have him fight the main villain too soon, otherwise the whole thing just falls apart.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure we could come up with ways like how could they have handled this better, but it's just sometimes they'll have Luffy, as I said, sidelined for kind of a reason that's just kind of annoying. Just like, oh, okay, you're stuck in a building or you're chasing a shadow or whatever.
I actually don't think we have too much more of that at this point. I think we're almost done with the Luffy.
He just realized he caught the shadow, and now he's got to figure out where the heck did Moria actually go.
Yeah,
right. But they could totally keep going. But I think at this point, Luffy starts going somewhere interesting and not just running around in a forest. So
I will say, and C. Kohler mentioned this in the last episode, that having Kuma now on the island does make for actual more interest here. If Kuma wasn't there, it's just, okay, they got to take care of Oars, and then they got to take care of Moria. And it's just like, okay, everyone else takes care of Oars, then Luffy will take care of Moria. But now it's like, oh, now Kuma's here. Now I don't really know what to expect.
Yeah.
So,
it's fun.
I'm just, kind of brainstorming, like maybe Kuma will kind of just step in the way and take care of Moria for some other reason, or at least I expect him to contribute in some fashion, but I don't know how. Mm-hmm. So that does leave me curious and interested. So
yeah, I think you have every reason to be. It's pretty interesting how this all plays out, and it's going to be
at this point we don't even know exactly why he's there. I mean, I know he's there for some reason to talk to Moria for some reason, or to do something with Moria for some reason, but we don't know what.
Yeah. I mean, we should find out.
His reasons are not for you to know, as he says, or whatever.
Nope.
And yeah. And also, like, actually from the beginning of this arc, I was kind of wondering, like, is what Moria is doing on this island, is it sanctioned from the government because he is a warlord?
Oh, they
Or is
don't
he just
care.
or is he kind of just off doing his own thing because they give him free reign? Like, that's one of those things that maybe this will elucidate
I
some
think
of
you'll
that.
learn the answer to that in the very next episode.
Yeah.
So look forward to that.
I mean, generally, the government doesn't care what the warlords do as long as they show up when they get called.
That's correct. Yes.
You know, it's like they just can't be bothered.
So I don't know if you just spoiled it, but is Kuma going to basically go up to him and say, like, why haven't you been showing up to our meetings or something?
I actually don't remember exactly what he says to him, but I don't want to say even if I knew. But I think it is important what B-Dubs just said for someone like yourself, because it's not ever really. I remember when I was watching through the whole series, and I don't remember it being so laid out so clearly until later that the warlords basically, they're not sanctioned by the government in the sense that the government, like, how do I say this? It's like
they're not given the okay to do what they do. They're just allowed to do whatever they want.
Yeah, the government kind of turns a blind eye a bit to what they're doing, even though they don't agree with it. But in return, the government gets to say, if we want you to go do X, you have to go do X.
Yeah. Like, that's part of the deal is we leave you alone to do whatever the heck you want within reason.
Pirate stuff.
I mean, within reason, of course. Like something like what Crocodile did is, like a no-go.
Right.
Yeah,
but they're like, if you want to go out and be a pirate and steal and do stuff like the pirates do that we don't approve of, we're okay with that as long as you do our bidding when we call on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that's basically it. So that's what the warlords are about.
So it could be, knowing that there's a number of reasons Kuma could be going in to talk to Moria.
I sometimes feel like we maybe praise One Piece too much, but I do think the whole idea of like warlords in the four pirate generals or whatever they're called, how they're like established early on. We meet some of them early on, but it's not. I think they're well done in terms of like how they are like positioned and contribute to the storyline. Like in most shonen, like you're introduced to a villain, and then he's just like, he has some story arc, some conflict, and then the villain is taken care of, and you go to the next villain.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas One Piece, like we've met Mihawk. I think he might have been the first one you met, but like he's still out there and he's still a threat and he's still dangerous. Hundreds and hundreds of episodes later, and then like Kuma was introduced earlier, and then like we've met Doflamingo has been introduced. Moria is brand new. Like Moria is more typical. Like we're introduced to him now, and it looks like he's probably going to get dealt with now.
Same
but
with Crocodile.
Yeah, I just felt like the way that these are built. First of all, it makes things more interesting, just in terms of like when are these conflicts going to be resolved eventually. But also, it
makes the world a little bigger.
Exactly, it makes it feel like we kind of know what's out there. Like we know there are these warlords, and some of them have been introduced, but some of them have not. So it kind of feels like it feels more real and more believable.
Yeah, it adds a bit of depth to the story instead of always being on par with everything else. Like we know that the Straw Hats ain't shit. Like
for example, with regards to Naruto, I know this whole like 6 paths sage thing comes up later, like pretty significantly, but like why was this thing like never mentioned before if it's apparently this really important dude? Like it just felt like it just literally just kind of came out of nowhere where these warlord things were established a long time ago, and it's still.
And I can't believe I'm going to say this, but in Naruto's defense, I do believe that Oda is one of the best ever. I said this last episode I was on. That he's one of the best ever at foreshadowing. Like he has such a great plan for his world. Yeah. And he's kind of like J.K. Rowling, where like she has it all figured out in her head and she just have to write it down.
Right. So, like Rowling had like before she even sat down to write the first book, like she knew where everything would wind up.
There's that kind of famous thing where like she told the actor for Snape, Alan, I forget his name.
Alan Rickman. Like she told him,
this is what Snape actually is all about before it was a book. Like,
I mean, like literally, the first movie came out like when the third book came out. You know, like she was 3 books in and nowhere near that revelation.
Well, just like with Rowling,
the idea is that she had it planned out.
right?
Yeah.
Just like with Rowling, Oda already has his ending written, and so and he has as much as his world designed as he needs to. So you're right. What you were saying a moment ago about the fact that like we can know well in advance of what a warlord is, and what's cool about that is that when they show up, we are impacted. We're like, as viewers, we're like, oh no, this is this thing we've been hearing about.
Yeah.
Whereas other shows, they just introduce villain X and he's strong, but you're like, well, where was he all this time?
Yeah.
I mean, like, to go back to Naruto, like, they do this with one example, that example being Itachi. Like, the idea of Itachi is introduced fairly early on with, in Sasuke's arc and all of that stuff, and he reappears here and there. It's not exceptionally well done, but we do know.
I do agree with you that like this whole Sasuke versus Itachi conflict that we're literally just about to get into is one of the things that like if you've been following Naruto this whole time, it's like finally we're getting to this. Like we knew this was going to happen, so we're finally getting to it.
Yeah,
and it feels like something that was kind of
foreshadowed,
built a little bit more organically than
anything else.
Like even just Pain showing up. Like, oh, where did Pain come from?
I mean, for example, the Akatsuki pretty much came out of nowhere at the start of part 2.
Well, I get the impression that Kishimoto around the time
end of part 1. Yeah.
Around the time Shippuden started, I feel like Kishimoto started to realize that his stories need to be more like One Piece and have more like foreshadowing in them. Maybe I'm reading that wrong, but that's or maybe this is like he dropped a few hints earlier and now he's trying to do more world building now.
Like, sort of to go back with what you guys were saying in terms of foreshadowing, part of what makes One Piece good too is that Oda will take like these little things that nobody really thinks much of, and he'll be like, oh, that would be a good thing to bring back. Like it's not necessarily always going to be foreshadowing. It's more like flipping through something in the past and thinking, oh, I can actually use this now.
Yeah,
for this,
I think he does some of that too. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's. But when done well, it's the sort of thing that is, like you can't tell the difference between that and foreshadowing.
But there's stuff in One Piece that is so obviously foreshadowed that when you go back and you're looking at it, it's like there's no other way. It had to have been planned.
Sometimes it almost feels. This is like the most limp criticism I could possibly give. But sometimes it feels maybe not organic or flowing enough. Like in the way they do Oda does world building. For example, we literally got like a random one-off episode where we see Ace taking on Blackbeard. Like it had nothing. It had nothing to do with what basically what happened with the episode before it, and the episode after it. It just kind of slid in there. Hey, here's this other thing that's going on. Like I said, this is like the most limpest of criticisms I can get because if this was any other shonen, they would do that episode literally right before it would.
Well, that would be an arc or something.
It would be an arc, or it would be introduced right when it was needed. But the fact that it was introduced, now it's still like dozens and dozens of episodes ago before Thriller Bark.
Right.
Like we that is something we're now expecting. Like, okay, we know this is going to come back. So I feel like that's maybe not the ideal way to do it, just to kind of throw in a random episode and let's introduce something that we'll get to in 100 episodes or whatever.
Right.
But it's still better than what a lot of these stories end up doing.
I mean, I will say that there are actually a couple of arcs going on in the background of One Piece that we aren't exactly cognizant of until everything comes to a head.
Yeah, it does make the world feel bigger. Like our characters aren't the only one doing stuff.
Right. Like the Ace thing, he's been hunting down Blackbeard since what the hell was the desert thing.
Alabasta?
Since Alabasta, and then we have the Don Flamingo arc that's going to be going on in the background, starting after, Skypiea. So,
I agree with you, Seda, only in the sense that I think that those things happen so
rarely,
infrequently, and so far in between that sometimes you can even as a viewer forget that they happened.
Right.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But I do like that they happen because you're like you said, it's almost like the B story in a way where this other thing's happening and it's going to come back later and it'll be interesting when it does. So
right, and it's usually a very important thing that does wind up coming back later.
Yeah,
like it's not something that's taken out just for like this.
Yeah, it's the opposite filler. Later. It's the opposite of filler. It's like, this is actually really important what you're seeing here for an episode.
Right. Yeah. Usually when we just cut away from the Straw Hats for an episode, it's because this is the most important thing that is happening in the world right now.
I want to emphasize, well, you just said it again. It does kind of make, like a lot of shows, it feels like they revolve around like a small cast, and it's almost like nothing happens in this world unless the cast is involved.
Right.
Like, it almost feels like it's fake. Like a lot of Japanese RPGs do this, where it's like your characters literally have
the most important
every
person.
single thing. Every single thing that happens in the world is because of your characters that you are playing as. But this makes it feel like, no, our characters are off on Thriller Bark doing this one thing that really, in the grand scheme of things,
doesn't matter.
It's actually not that important. It's just Moria kind of doing his own little thing, and then the Straw Hats got caught up in this, where there's this other stuff going on that's like, this is actually probably more important, and it's like the world is turning aside from what our characters see.
Without
that also brings up kind of this whole idea of irony, where we know something the characters don't.
Right.
Yeah. And without spoiling anything, I'll say the fact that Kuma shows up here is a great example of that, where clearly stuff is happening in the world and we're just not, as viewers, aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like Kuma's about to go give some information or whatever to Moria, and we're like, wait, why?
Yeah.
You know, what's going on right now that's so important?
Yeah. And less said, the better. But nonetheless, this is another example of where the Thriller Bark adventure of the Straw Hats crew is just a piece of this world, and we're about to be seeing more of it.
Like it's really just this insignificant thing that doesn't really matter for the overarching world at all.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but it's a little bit.
I mean, it compared to everything else that's going on in the background, it's like nothing.
I mean, it's significant in the sense that this is their adventure, but
yeah. I mean, it's significant that, you know, Moria is a warlord and
what he's trying to do.
Oh, yeah, it's significant, and this is who he is, but that's really about it.
Yeah. I think that's all we got on this episode. What do you think, Grex?
Yep.
I know some people in the thread, and I kind of understand this, were, you know, maybe not complaining, but just stating like it kind of feels like this arc is dragging a bit. And I think all One Piece arcs kind of have the middle section, even Water 7 Eni's Lobby, where it just kind of takes its time.
AKA the train.
Yeah, the train.
The train.
Skypiea, I marathoned Skypiea because that was before the Toonami airing, and even marathoning it, I felt like this is taking a long time with the whole snake thing, and then.
Well, specifically the middle portion that drags in Skypiea is like the survival game part.
Yeah,
where it's here's Zoro versus random, you know, Skypiean dipshit number 5.
And then there's what's his name, the native guy, Wolf. What was his name?
His name was...
I can't remember.
Wolfman. Who knows?
Anyway, like I feel like we're kind of at the point in Thriller Bark, where it feels like with the reintroduction of Kuma, like okay, we're finally getting into like the ending run of this arc, where hopefully things will continue to stay interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think so.
Wiper. His name was Wiper.
Yes.
The W head.
Yeah.
For what only thing I want to say that's kind of cool is after Thriller Bark we have like a 2-episode filler arc, which is awful, and then we have like a kind of mini lead-in arc to the next big arc.
Mm-hmm.
But I say big, but the truth is that the next big arc isn't really that big. And what's cool about it, and what I love about it, is that it doesn't have this meandering part in it. Right. It's one of the few arcs that doesn't.
It's very quick.
It's just pretty much they get right into everything. It's great.
The meandering part is almost the lead up part.
It is really, that's it. Yeah, and then once they're doing the thing, it's like it's all really interesting.
Yeah, I will say that, you know, like the survival game thing, like everyone had to get their own fight, and we had to get it like an episode for everyone's fight, and it does make it feel like it drags on.
Sometimes a lot of shonens do that. Where I mean, I guess Naruto and DBZ don't, but Bleach did this a lot. Where like there's kind of these one-off fights where they kind of like pair up characters and like, all right, now it's your turn to fight. Now it's your turn to fight. Now it's your turn to fight. I mean, it kind of just feels a little bit too formulaic to me.
Yeah,
but that is one thing that Thriller Bark And I guess One Piece sometimes falls into that trap.
Yeah.
But like it kind of threw you for a loop with
Right.
in Water 7 and Ennie's Lobby with the CP9 guys a little
Yeah.
bit.
I mean, part of what I'm saying though is there's actually a lot of like people that do like that, and like for like series where that doesn't happen all the time, or where it happened and then it stopped happening. Like people want that back for some reason, even though it slows everything down by like a massive amount.
Well, it's
And
a popular formula, I guess.
yeah, and I would be interested to have this conversation again at some point in the future, if only because, it's a conversation we're going to wind up having, like maybe a year or two from now.
Okay. Well, I think before we finish off the episode, I did mention earlier that we would talk briefly about Intruder 3. So there was an update this week.
There's a
More worms! And also there's an intruder, and Tom is like,
there's 50 floors again.
Yeah, so I think obviously these are only supposed to be like tiny stories, but the main thing with this episode was that they realized that the base they were in had more capability than they thought, including like these automated turrets.
Yeah.
And then they had
maybe it's actually maybe it's actually a buried ship.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I think it's super obvious that's what this is. I could be wrong, but it feels like they're just in a buried ship.
Which would actually be pretty cool, considering, they've been in there that long. And I don't know, I'd be okay with it if that's what's...
Well, what would be cool if the planet's hollow and it's like an overlook station that looks over the entire hollow floor of the planet.
No, the planet is actually like a Death Star. It looks like a planet.
Be crazy. Although it'd be more than 50 floors if that's the case.
Yeah.
Well, hey, it just has to get down to the hollow part. But anyway, it's a ship.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm pretty sure the part that's been sticking up that we've been seeing the whole time is probably just the bridge.
Yeah.
So.
Ah, shit, you're right.
Now
we won't even get a new bridge probably, unless they have.
I guess the one thing
there's another one.
The one thing right now that we don't know is like they say there's an intruder in the base ship, whatever it is.
Maybe there
is.
It's not
the worm that they killed. So what's the intruder exactly? Is it the same guy again, or is it someone else? We don't know.
Maybe
I think they showed two intrusion points. I think it is just the worms that came back, or different worms.
Who knows? There's only two more episodes.
I'm with you, Theta. I think that whatever's breaking in is not another worm. It's probably something else.
I feel like a worm would be too big to be an intruder. A worm would be like, I'm actually destroying the place from the outside in, rather than I'm actually infiltrating it. So, I don't know.
You think they just say that? You think they just go, well, another worm is broken up on, it looks like level 49 or whatever.
I do appreciate that they seem kind of self-aware that reusing intruder is a little bit basic. Like, there's another intruder, of course. So like they seem aware that it's like, yes, we are kind of retreading on the same idea.
I think if they do another one of these like next year, they should maybe not do an intruder.
Yeah, they should call it something else. Like it's not the intruder; it's actually the. I don't know.
He should travel to Earth. That'd be interesting.
Maybe Earth is completely destroyed.
Well, who's he transmitting to then?
Maybe
that's the tragic part. He doesn't know.
No.
What if the next immersion event is like Tom is running low on his budget and he needs to like go back and negotiate for more funding?
That would be hilarious.
It'd be like
the budget negotiations, part 1. Like, what have you been doing up in space this whole time, Tom? Well, I've just been relaying these anime shows apparently to like millions of people.
I don't know why.
We get to figure out like who he even like works for and why do you even get the ship.
Yeah, who built Tom?
Yeah.
The question nobody ever asked or wanted answered.
I am being totally serious here, guys, by the way. No, I'm not. Okay.
I believe it.
Who knows? I mean, it could be his hyperdrive breaks and he's in an asteroid belt and he needs money.
Anyway, that'll do it for episode 31. Thank you, Seacoler, on short notice.
No problem.
Literally woke up 5 minutes before the thing.
Yeah. Who can tell? You sound fine.
Thank you, B-Dubs.
Hello.
Didn't know it's goodbye.
Oh yeah, goodbye.
You can't even do that. You can't even do this right.
We can't even do this right.
And Seda.
See you next week.
See you next. Well, now what am I supposed to say?
You're supposed to say the Toonami phrase later.
Later.
Okay, later.